So I finished Final Fantasy VII Remake a while ago, and after 3 consecutive playthroughs, let's say that I have a lot of thoughts on it. I was originally going to do a review on this, however, after watching other reviews and listening to podcasts and stuff, I realized that there isn't really anything too unique that I can talk about that hasn't already been talked about already. But I still want to talk about something regarding this game. So, I'm going to talk about the final boss, since not only do I personally think that it is the best boss in the game, but one of the best boss fights I have fought in a while. It isn't flawless, trust me, I'll get to that, but I want to explain why I think it's so good. We're going to start with the positives, and the first thing I want to touch on is the music. Well, don't think I need to show any more of anything, really. That sums up the entire video. It's awesome. Bye! See ya! That's it! I'm out! That's it, the whole video! Fine. Okay, I'll get into it. Honestly, this intro is just awesome. Not only do we get a tease at the newest version of One Winged Angel, it immediately sets the tone of the fight and how epic it's going to get with just a few notes. It also helps that even people who have no knowledge of FF7 at least know about One Winged Angel, so it immediately lets the audience know that yes, you are fighting Sephiroth. Good luck. Then halfway through the fight we get the full version, and it is beautiful. This is the music you hear when you wonder where the boss music is coming from.
That's boss music. Do you hear that? Yeah.
Why do I hear boss music?
Where's the Kraken?
It makes you feel like you're backed into a corner the whole fight, even when you aren't. Unless you're on hard mode, in which case you most definitely are. Don't lie to me. It's just a really awesome piece that really signifies the end of the game, and is an epic version of a familiar tune. The next thing I want to talk about is a little weird, but bear with me. It is so cool that it is just a normal sword fight against Sephiroth. Explain time, go now. In the original game, we are told about how awesome Sephiroth is and how skilled he is. He is a famous war hero and possibly the strongest first-class soldier. We get to see that it is not all talk when he is a temporary member in your party in a flashback sequence. But when it comes to Sephiroth as he is, that's all we get. When it comes to the full battle with Sephiroth, we only fight his monster forms. And no, the very last fight does not count in the slightest. Not only is that used to end Cloud's arc, but that fight is just a victory lap. You don't get to have a normal one-on-one fight with Sephiroth to see his skill in a normal fight and see how much stronger Cloud is to Sephiroth now due to everything Cloud had to go through to get here. In fact, you can just not do anything and win. Seriously. Everyone uses Omni Slash, rightfully so, but if you do nothing, Cloud will counterattack him regardless, and Sephiroth will lose. So we never get to have a proper fight with him. Sure, there are games where you can fight him, like Kingdom Hearts and Dissidia, but when it comes to the main series, not so much. Sure, I suppose you could say Crisis Core does have a fight with a normal version of Sephiroth, but the base melee combat in that game doesn't really do that justice. So to have an actual boss fight with Sephi in FF7 is just awesome. Plain and simple. Especially if you've heard me mention in almost every video I've ever done, I love rival fights like this. Okay, to fully explain why I think this boss is great, I need to go step by step, phase by phase, moment by moment, and explain every facet that I can. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand my points on this. Okay, so, you just beat the Whispers, a boss that I'm mixed on, both in story and gameplay, but that's all over now, and we get a pre-rendered cutscene. We get a moment to relax before we see Meteor get absorbed. Sephiroth then tosses a bunch of buildings at the party to split them up. Now, it's just Cloud and Sephiroth. That music cue comes in, and it's time to fucking go! This first phase is pretty easy, and rightfully so. It allows you to get used to his moves and to see that he will use magic, namely Fire Aga and Blizzaga, and not just sword attacks. Okay, yeah, so I just want to clarify the whole he will use magic thing I just mentioned. Sephiroth has always used magic before. It's not anything new. You can see in other games and other things he's used magic. But if you have no knowledge of Sephiroth, like if you only know about him through just the remake or through pop culture osmosis, you probably just think that he's, oh, that really skilled guy with the sword, right? Like, you wouldn't think he'd use magic, which is why I think it's kind of genius that the very first thing that this amazing swordsman does is shoot magic at you, and the fight shows that he will use magic. I just really like that. I just want to clarify that. It's not like he hasn't used magic before, he has. But this is going to show you, it's not just sword attacks, it's also magic. And judging by, streamers and how they fought him, you can see that that didn't seem to register when he's charging up fire and they all get hit by it because they're trying to, attack him. But, yeah, just want to clarify that. That being said, his sword attacks can cause problems if you aren't paying attention and just mashing, so plan accordingly. Telluric Fury is his main attack, but also the easiest to counter. Scintilla is his counter move towards you, meant to prevent you from just mindlessly attacking. You hit it, prepare to take damage from just attacking for no reason. His last move for this phase is Aeolian Onslaught, which is an uncounterable move, so you have to time your dodges instead to avoid damage. This phase is a good place to fully utilize Cloud's unique mechanic of his counterattacks, whether it be for Punisher mode or counter stance. It is also a good place to learn how to use both if you've been neglecting them the whole game for some reason. He's also susceptible to both stagger and has hit stun, so it's not too difficult to deal with. This phase is easy enough to deal with, as you have time to practice some mechanics, but also to test you on some of your basic skills and see what you have been learned. It's still epic, but it's an easy phase. Plus, being able to toss each other out of buildings is so cool. Now we get to the next phase, and before I go on with the actual fight, I want to talk about the integral part of this fight, in that how your party works in this fight. As the fight continues in different phases, more of your party will join you, and this is based off of your personal relations with them. That's a whole other can of worms in and of itself, but it can definitely alter the tide of battle or make things way harder depending. For my first run, I had Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa in that order. In my second run, it was Cloud, Tifa, Aerith. For my third run, which was on hard mode, it was Cloud, Tifa, and Barret. By the way, I'm so glad I looked down and got Barret, since him being able to take Octo Slash is a godsend! Anyway, so you get to the next phase with a party member, and he has a few new moves, one of which being Boundless Void, which if it hits will stun a party member, allowing him to get a huge amount of damage on said party member. His new magic moves are Aroga and Thundaga.
Gungaga.
He also has Hell's Gate, in which he attacks the ground and causes shockwaves. This move can be tricky as it is fast, and while you can see where the shockwaves will come from, they have a wide range. He can also now send out sword slashes from a distance, so he has close-up and range moves with his sword. There is some more challenge in this phase, but as long as you don't get cocky, it's still a manageable fight. Now we get to the third phase, and this is where majority of the boss battle is at. He sprouts his wing, the full version of Whelming Angel plays, your third party member joins you, and the real fight begins now. He can still be staggered, but it takes quite a while unless you can find the right openings. He also no longer has hit stun, so he would just power through a bunch of your attacks. His sword attacks also do quite a bit of damage, and he even has his own limit break, so have fun surviving that. And he can teleport, so he has every distance on the playfield covered. His main gimmick in this phase is that he will shift through different magical elements. For instance, he might have Fire Infusion, which will greatly increase his Fire Aga damage, and now can create a wall of fire. Or Lightning Infusion, which will not only power up Thundaga, but will then pretty much rain down a thunderstorm that seems like it attracts all members even though it doesn't. This is the ultimate final exam of your knowledge of not only the whole game and its mechanics, but the previous phases as well, as he has every move he had so far in this phase, plus the infusions and the limit break. Some parts of this phase may seem unfair, but it is fair if you know how to handle it, even his limit break. He can still take damage during it, so it's not totally unfair. On normal, this fight still isn't too bad, but on hard, woo boy! You better have a good build and know how to utilize all party members and constantly switch between them. But unless you lose all members and have to start over, this is the most challenging part of the boss, and also the most fun. Sure, I would prefer if he still had hit stun, but he at least had it earlier and wasn't impervious the whole fight, so I'll give it a pass. But yeah, this phase is the real fight, and where it truly feels like the fight against the most powerful soldier, and it's fun to boot. And finally, the fourth and final stage. Once Sephiroth has a quarter of his health left, he'll summon Meteor and begin a countdown, from 9 to 0. Once he hits 0, you instantly lose. His magic attacks now cover almost the whole arena, and he is constantly floating above the ground, meaning you'll have to deal with the horrible aerial combat. On the plus side, his moveset is drastically reduced and way easier to evade. Also, if you manage to save your limit breaks, this is the time to let them loose. He does have Heartless Angel though, a move that will render anyone hit to 1 HP. However, unlike say Kingdom Hearts where it tracks you, reduces you to 1 HP, and destroys your magic, here it only affects your HP, and there is a limited range to it, meaning it is easy to avoid and isn't hard to recover from, even when he gets spam happy with it. Honestly, this phase is pretty easy as I never had him get to 0 at all. After that last phase required a lot of strategy and timing, this is the one where, besides a few attacks, you turn your brain off and try your best to bum rush him as fast as possible. It's like a victory lap that still requires you to be on your toes, but also relaxing enough after the last phase. So to summarize, the intro to this fight is sexy as all hell. The first phase is an easy intro. It steadily ramps up the challenge in phase 2. The boss fight happens proper in phase 3, that is a challenge and could take a while, but it is incredibly rewarding and gives you the real fight against Sephiroth that other games lacked. And phase 4 is where you just go all out and relieve all your frustrations by just attacking non-stop. This boss is just so well done. I also want to talk about the cutscene after his fight for a bit. I do have a bit of an issue with it, which I will get into, but the fight between Cloud and Sephiroth here is so well done. The music is perfect, the background is gorgeous, and the choreography is incredible. It is one of the best cutscene fights, and it doesn't even last long. It is also the best short fight between Cloud and Sephiroth cutscene that exists, in my opinion. And the best part? Sephiroth isn't even trying. Seriously, look at him! He's being so casual against Cloud, who's trying harder than I've ever seen in anything. He's doing flash steps and acrobatics that are never seen prior to this game, and Sephiroth is pretty much yawning and looking at his watch while parrying everything, even after that long and grueling fight that just ended not 2 minutes ago. It is a great tease for how things will change, and how, like in the original, Cloud will have no effort against him. Hopefully. And for all of those reasons, being hard yet fair and having such a varied moveset while fighting a fairly normal version of him, Sephiroth is a fun and fantastic fight in my opinion. Still not sold after all that? Okay, then this will. Remember that awesome Cloud vs. Sephiroth fight at the end of Advent Children? The best part of that movie? It's basically a playable version of that.
Give me the game.
What?
You said the final boss is like a playable Advent Children, right?
Yeah.
Well, Advent Children is one of my favorite movies, and I want to play the remake because of it, so just give it to me.
Do you actually like Advent Children unironically?
Will you just shut up and give me the game?
How'd you even get here?
Give me the game!
Oh, shit! But, like I said earlier, it's not flawless, unfortunately. I mean, the actual boss fight is, but some of the context and tone behind it is the real problem. Even though I mentioned before that Sephiroth not taking the fight seriously is cool, it also greatly lessens the tension. This kind of invalidates your whole struggle if it seems like you didn't really do anything in the long run. It pretty much makes the player go, oh, well, good to know that fight didn't even matter. You don't even feel like you conquered a great foe if that foe doesn't give a shit the whole time. He clearly had to put some effort in if he sprouted his wing, which makes him stronger, but it makes it seem like even then he wasn't trying. So then, did Sephiroth want to lose? It doesn't add up. And while I do still love the fact that we get a boss fight against non-monster Sephiroth, it does seem too early. Yes, I know there are plot reasons as to why he's so prevalent early on, when in the original he was in the background for a while. But unless this is a preview of a later Sephiroth fight, it kind of lessens the big confrontation at the end of the journey. Also, we can't have a Sephiroth fight at the end of every part of the remake, and I hope they don't go down this road. This fight and the one at the very end are enough. Do not add more. That being said, will Sephiroth even be the final boss of the final part? Will it be safe for Sephiroth? It's going to be very difficult to make yet another version of One Winged Angel so soon after another, and it's going to be very hard to top this version. So how's this all going to play out? The impact of that original Sephiroth fight may now be lost because we already had a fight with him, but who knows what will happen. This fight happened too early, even if I love it. So there are not many negatives, thankfully, but as of this video, these are still legit issues. While most of my negatives gear more towards speculation and not too much legit issues with the fight, these are things that still need to be considered. That being said, I hope my positives explained why I think this fight is so good. It's fair, it's fun, it has great variety, great music, and is just a well-designed boss fight in general. Now, let's see if any bosses in any of the future installments in Remake can top this.